Number 2 is back, and nobody was ready for what happened next. It started at a Friday night high school football game in Avon. Completely ordinary setting, packed bleachers, local kids running around in their gear, and then someone spotted it. 8 different kids in the crowd, completely unconnected to each other, all wearing the same shirt. Shedeur Sanders' number. No coordination, no group chat, no organized fan club behind it. Just 8 people who independently decided that jersey meant something worth wearing. That's the moment you need to understand before any of the business numbers make sense. Because what happened in the 48 hours after Shedeur officially reclaimed number 2 wasn't a marketing campaign. It wasn't a planned rollout. It was a pressure wave that nobody, not the retailers, not the analysts, and certainly not Nike, saw coming at that speed. This isn't a jersey story, it's a power story. Let's be real about what's actually happening here, because calling this a merchandise moment undersells it completely. Shedeur Sanders was selected 144th overall in the 2025 NFL Draft, 5th round, a pick that on paper should have buried him in the background noise of a draft class filled with higher-profile names getting all the attention and spotlight. First and second round picks get the rookie premier treatment, the big Nike campaigns, the front page features. Nobody is watching the 5th round with that kind of energy. Nobody except the people who had been watching Shedeur since Texas, since Jackson State, since Colorado, since long before the NFL decided where his name belonged on a draft board. Because here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders. The number 2 wasn't just a jersey number. It was never just a number. From his school days in Texas, it started becoming something bigger than what it was printed on. It became part of how people recognized him, part of the identity he was deliberately and carefully building around himself. He didn't stumble into a brand. He constructed one, methodically, intentionally, with every step pointing toward a bigger picture that most people in the league weren't paying close enough attention to see yet. By the time he walked into the NFL, that number already had weight behind it. Colorado honored it before he even played his first professional snap. That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when a number stops being a number and starts being a statement. The quiet move that said everything when Shedeur arrived in Cleveland and found out that number 2 was already taken, worn by veteran wide receiver DeAndre Carter. The average player in that situation starts making noise, pushes the issue, makes it known that this matters. Maybe it gets handled, maybe it doesn't, but you hear about it either way. Shedeur went quiet, took number 12, put his head down and got to work. That silence wasn't weakness. Anyone reading it that way completely missed what was happening. That was control. That was the Deion Sanders school of thought in action. Eliminate excuses, cut out distractions, let the work speak. His father built that into him from Jackson State forward, where challenges were constant and every single decision had to count. So he played in number 12. 7 starts, over 1,400 passing yards, a 3-4 record as a starter on a team that finished 5-12 overall, an offensive line that was struggling, a limited supporting cast, 10 interceptions that gave critics exactly the ammunition they were looking for. Nothing handed to him. Nothing easy about any of it. And he still made the Pro Bowl. Let that land properly. A 5th-round rookie, on a losing team, with a supporting cast that wasn't built to make him look good. The last Browns quarterback to reach that level was Derek Anderson back in 2007. Nearly 20 years of drought ended by a guy the draft had essentially written off as a late-round project. The fans voted. They saw something real underneath the circumstances. And the moment his name was announced for that Pro Bowl, the jersey sales that were already impressive for a 5th-round pick went completely off the charts, even while he was wearing number 12, a number that meant nothing to him personally. Nike noticed. The league noticed. The merchandise teams noticed. What they were all looking at was a player whose influence outside the lines was outrunning his on-field results. His brand wasn't just functioning, it was operating on an entirely different level than his draft position suggested it should be. March 30th, 2026, the switch flipped. DeAndre Carter left. Just like that, number 2 was open, and the Cleveland Browns didn't sit on it or run it through weeks of internal discussion. They confirmed it immediately. Shedeur Sanders reclaiming number 2 for the 2026 season. Shedeur's response. He posted one thing on X, just the number, no caption, no speech, no celebration, just 2. That single post broke the internet faster than most full press conferences managed to, because everybody already knew what it meant. The fans who had been waiting for this moment, some of them for over a year, didn't need any explanation. They flooded in simultaneously. People who had skipped on buying a number 12 jersey suddenly appeared out of nowhere ready to spend. People who had already bought number 12 were asking about exchange policies within hours. Websites couldn't handle the traffic surge. Retailers were caught completely flat-footed. Demand didn't build gradually over days, it crashed down all at once like a wave that had been gathering strength for years and finally had nowhere left to go but forward. The scout didn't lie, and that's Cleveland's problem with the noise. An NFL scout just did something the entire Cleveland media circus couldn't manage in 6 months. He sat down, watched the tape, crunched the numbers, and told the truth. No feelings, no front office favors. No secret handshake with Kevin Stefanski. Just a professional doing his job. And what he found, it blows every trade rumor, every shady anonymous source, and every Watson has a great chance hot take straight out of the water. Here's the thing people keep conveniently forgetting. Shedeur Sanders, working with scraps. No preseason reps, no first-team practice time, basically throwing to ball boys in individual drills. Still put up better completion rates, fewer interceptions, and a cleaner overall statistical line than the quarterback CBS Sports is now suggesting Cleveland should replace him with. Let that sink in for a second. And the scout didn't hedge. He didn't say with the right system or if he develops. He watched football. He counted completions. He tracked decisions under pressure. And he delivered an evaluation that 6 months of coordinated media noise was specifically designed to keep people from seeing clearly. Wait, who are we even talking about as replacements? Let's talk about Anthony Richardson, because this is where it gets almost comical. 4th overall pick, 2023 draft. The media treated this guy like he was a generational gift to the NFL. Elite arm, elite athleticism, you name it. He had a fully built offensive system around him, first-team reps from day one, a coaching staff literally designed around his skill set. And in 17 games, 51% completion rate, 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. That's the guy CBS Sports floated as a Shedeur Sanders upgrade. Seriously. Meanwhile, Shedeur, in 7 games with 0 preseason, throwing to whoever was available, still outperformed that stat line in almost every meaningful category. The comparison isn't close, it isn't even in the same zip code. Will Levis gets thrown into the conversation too, and honestly, 3 seasons in, 21 games started, 61% completion rate, 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. That's a serviceable backup. That's not your franchise answer. The numbers don't support the hype, and neither does the tape. The media lost their sources, so they started making stuff up. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Andrew Berry and Todd Monken have essentially shut the media out of that building. People who had sources inside Cleveland, they don't have them anymore. The pipeline is dead. The anonymous GM quotes, the locker room whispers, the "I heard from someone close to the situation" stuff, all of it is operating in complete darkness now. So what do you do when you can't see inside the building? Apparently you make stuff up and call it a bombshell. The CBS Sports article that everyone lost their minds over? Read on camera, live, in real time. It wasn't even saying what people claimed it was saying. Clickbait dressed up as reporting. The trade rumor was noise. The scouts' numbers are not. The real story was always inside that facility. And the only person who actually got to it did it the old-fashioned way. He showed up, watched film, and wrote down what he saw. Todd Monken doesn't care about your narrative. There's a story floating around about Monken from a 2017 or 2018 training camp. And honestly, it tells you everything you need to know about this guy's personality. He's out there competing with receivers, trash talk flying everywhere, and he tells an offensive player to get back on his side of the field. Bluntly, really bluntly. Training camp language, let's say. Did it cause a scene? A little? Did they squash it like professionals afterward? Absolutely. But the point is, this is not a head coach who gets pushed around by media pressure, ownership politics, or the weight of a $230 million quarterback contract when the tape is pointing him somewhere else. Monken is going to do what the tape tells him to do, full stop. And right now, the tape is telling him Shedeur Sanders. The competition is real, but read the room. Someone who played with Monken and knows how he operates put it perfectly. I see them believing in Shedeur, but they ain't just handing him the keys. He's got to earn it. That's exactly what's happening. This isn't coronation season, it's competition season. But here's the thing. If you pay attention to what's actually going on, Shedeur walked into those early OTA sessions with the first group. Not because someone did him a favor, because the process pointed there. Joe Flacco got let go. Dylan Gabriel didn't get handed anything back. The building has been cleaned up, locked down, and pointed in a direction. The scouts' numbers just confirmed what direction that is. Give the man a full season. Look, Shedeur Sanders played 7 games, 7, with no preseason, no first-team reps, and a team that was already in damage control mode. He won out his scheduled starts. He's been in that building longer than any other quarterback competing for the job, and he still, statistically, held his own against guys who were handed everything from day one. The trade rumors aren't real. Will Levis isn't coming. Anthony Richardson isn't coming. And the reporters who spent 6 months running a quiet smear campaign against Shedeur have lost their access to the building they're pretending to cover. The scouts saw what Deion Sanders saw, what the owner saw at 6 a.m. in that facility, what Monken saw every time Shedeur walked into his office, what Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and Quinn Jenkins all said out loud, with their real names attached, when they called him the guy. The numbers just made it official. So what about Watson? Let's finally have that conversation in the middle of all this noise. There's one name nobody really wants to talk about properly: Deshaun Watson. And honestly, it's understandable why. Because that contract, that $230 million guaranteed monster sitting in the corner of the room, makes everyone uncomfortable. Nobody wants to touch it. But we have to touch it now. Watson's contract makes him effectively untradeable. No team is absorbing that dead money. No general manager is sitting down at a table and saying, you know what, let's take Watson off your hands. It's not happening, which means the uncomfortable truth hiding inside all these trade rumors is this: if roster space needs to be made, the guy getting moved isn't Watson. It's Shedeur Sanders. And that's exactly where the entire media narrative collapses on itself. Think about it for a second. You're going to trade Shedeur Sanders to bring in Watson, Levis, or Richardson. What does the scouting report say? What does the tape say? What do the numbers say? None of it points that direction. And yet every single week, a fresh Shedeur on the trade block headline drops like clockwork. That's not coincidence. That's a coordinated operation. And it just got exposed. Why is the organization staying quiet? Because the silence is the answer. Andrew Berry isn't talking. Todd Monken gives press conferences full of carefully worded generalities. Nobody is stepping to a podium and declaring Shedeur is our guy, and people are reading that silence as weakness or uncertainty. That reading is completely wrong. This silence is strategic. This silence is a shield. Because what Cleveland learned last year, painfully, publicly, is that every word you put out there becomes raw material for the media machine. It gets twisted, reframed, fed to anonymous sources, and served back to you as a morning headline designed to create instability. Berry and Monken watched that happen in real time. They learned the lesson. They closed the door. The number of people who actually know what's happening inside that Cleveland facility right now could fit in a single elevator. And none of them are talking. The only thing that leaked out was a scout's evaluation. And that happened not because someone inside the building talked, but because an outside professional showed up, watched tape, took notes, and left. It wasn't an inside leak. It was an outside observation. And that difference changes everything. Because now you don't need a source close to the situation telling you what to think. An independent professional did his job and told you straight, this kid can play. When OTAs start, everyone is going to see it. April is here. OTAs are starting up. And right now, every single person paying attention to Cleveland has their eyes locked on one thing. Which group walks out onto that practice field first? Who gets the first team reps? Who's standing behind the second unit watching? Someone who played with Monken, who knows how he thinks, who has lived through his evaluation process firsthand, said it clearly. When OTAs start, Shedeur is walking out there with that first group. That is not a fan prediction. That is not wishful thinking dressed up as analysis. That is someone who understands Monken's standards, his expectations, and his system for evaluating quarterback talent, delivering the most grounded projection anyone with real Monken knowledge has made this entire offseason. And the scouts' numbers back it up completely. Getting first-team reps might sound like a small internal detail to people on the outside, but in the NFL, it is everything. First-team reps means first-team offensive line, first-team receivers, first-team play calling, real game speed looks against a real defense. Shedeur got none of that last year. 0 preseason, 0 first-team reps. He was thrown into a season that was already lost before he ever touched the field, and he still outperformed Richardson. Statistically, without argument. Now give him a real shot. Now give him those first-team reps for a full offseason. Now let him go into a season with actual organizational support behind him. You want to know what happens? The scout already told you. The tape already told you. The numbers already told you. The media already lost this fight. They just haven't realized it yet. Here's the part that everyone seems to be missing in all the noise. This media operation failed. Quietly, without a single announcement, but completely and definitively, it failed. 6 months of anonymous sources. 6 months of I'm hearing things reports. 6 months of trade rumors timed perfectly to drop every time the organizational picture was getting clearer. Will Levis articles. Anthony Richardson speculation. CBS Sports pieces framed as bombshells that turned out to be clickbait when someone actually read them on camera. And the result of all of it? Nothing moved. Shedeur is still in Cleveland. Watson is still untradeable. Levis isn't coming. Richardson isn't coming. The building lockdown is still fully operational. Not a single rumor produced an actual outcome. The only weapon that media operation had was uncertainty. Manufacture enough doubt, keep enough what-if conversations alive long enough, and maybe the organization bends under the pressure and makes a reactive decision. It didn't work. Barry and Monken didn't flinch. They locked the doors tighter and let the noise exhaust itself. And now an independent scout stepped in from the outside and said with real numbers, the tape supports Shedeur. The performance supports Shedeur. The thing this organization has been protecting all offseason is worth protecting. What does the anonymous source machine put up against that? Nothing verifiable, nothing documented, nothing that holds up when you actually go watch the football. They were firing into the dark and the scout just turned the lights on. The comparison nobody wants to make straight. Let's lay this out one more time because it deserves to be said plainly without any spin attached to it. Anthony Richardson, 4th overall pick, fully established offensive system, first team reps from the first day of training camp, a coaching staff built specifically around his physical traits, 17 games, 51% completion rate, 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Will Levis, 3 NFL seasons, 21 games started, 61% completion rate, 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Serviceable, not a franchise answer. The numbers don't lie. Shedeur Sanders, 7 games, no preseason, no first-team reps, thrown into a lost season with a depleted supporting cast. Better completion rate, fewer interceptions, cleaner decision-making profile than both of them in a fraction of the opportunity. That's not a fan making an emotional argument. That's an NFL scout doing his job. And his job is specifically to remove emotion from the equation and tell you what the tape actually says. What the tape says is that the guy Cleveland has been quietly protecting all offseason is the guy worth building around. The other options are not upgrades. They are sidesteps dressed up as solutions. Thank you guys, see you next video.